30-minute time blocks. It is a specific time allotment to achieve one task whenever you need to in your calendar. And it is a game changer if you haven't done it.
Welcome to Trial to Triumph, hosted by Caleb Johnson, the show about leaning into life's constant testing on your way to realizing your biggest blessings.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Caleb Johnson, host of From Trial to Triumph. This is the show where I speak to people who have gone through tremendous trials and they have come out triumphant, and we will do our best to kind of pull out some gold nuggets that will hopefully apply to your lives so that you can maybe be motivated and inspired and take something away from today. So without further ado, I'll get just right into today. And today we have Jeff Davis on the show, and he's a fellow investor that I met, and I'm really excited to kind of learn more about him and also get an opportunity to share his story with you all. So Jeff, welcome. How are you?
Man, thanks so much. I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Good. Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. So can you just give our listeners a quick kind of background story about maybe where you started and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I am born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. And back in 2005, my wife and I got married in June. And then Hurricane Katrina hit in October. So we packed up everything we owned, which fit into the back of a Toyota Camry. And we headed on I-10 West, made it over to Houston, Texas, and I just went door to door knocking to try and find a job. And we were lucky enough. I found a job at a desk doing data entry for a logistics company. And that's how I got my start in corporate America.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then from that, I know you're a real estate investor as well. So how long ago when you started that corporate America, and then kind of how did you make that transition into real estate?
Yep. It was about 10 years before I could make that transition. Not that I didn't desire to get into real estate sooner, but it took some time going from a data entry clerk to kind of expanding my role within corporate America and getting into my career, right? Following that American dream. But my wife and I, we were moving along and we finally purchased a house, and then we experienced that Great Recession, just like so many Americans did. And it wasn't until then that I kind of had an aha moment and was like, I didn't really like how I watched all that down payment money, which was my equity, go away. And so I started researching and figuring out how to do better deals in real estate.
Okay. And I'd like to touch on your experience with Katrina a little bit, because that I know affected a lot of people, and it just really affected a lot of people in a major way. And so can you kind of tell, I mean, I wasn't there and I've never experienced that being in Arizona. I mean, the worst thing we have is 120 degree heat and that's it. But, right. And scorpions, but, how was that experience like? Were there bells that went off, and kind of how quickly did you have to get out of there?
It's really growing up in New Orleans, we did not evacuate. And we had hurricane parties growing up. And I mean, that is a lifestyle. And we were just used to having hurricanes. And that is why so many people who are kind of in the rest of the country are looking at the people in New Orleans and saying, why didn't you leave? We're just used to it, right? All along the Gulf Coast, you have hurricanes every year, and nothing of that magnitude really hits. And The only reason that I evacuated was because now I'm married. And so I obviously married up because she's much smarter than me. And she said, no, we're leaving. We're evacuating. And that's how this is. And yeah, she is. She's smarter than me. And so I, of course, said, okay, I guess we're leaving. And we went to Baton Rouge. And we ended up watching, and we stayed in a hotel room for the next month. Um, yeah, and it was amazing to drive into where my parents' house was and where we lived and all through to just see it decimated. Um, I was kind of working little odd jobs in the area. That was no more. So that was very, very different. And it was a different feel for me because I rolled out of there. My parents, obviously, and I'm fifth generation New Orleans. So, I have great great grandparents that were there. Um, but everybody it was a very different feel.
Mm-hmm. What was, can you explain a little bit about whenever you left and you were driving past, I'm assuming you were driving past your parents' home, or you're leaving New Orleans and everything, you're technically starting a new life and leaving,
Hmm.
like you said, fifth generation. There had to have been some emotions there. What was kind of the first thought through your mind whenever you were actually leaving?
For me, a little bit of excitement, right? I think I've always been the type who loves exploring something new, right? I've wanted to travel. I've wanted to do something because New Orleans is a different type of place where you can always go back. That's sort of a boomerang effect, right? My family's still there, and we always go back there for Thanksgiving and the holidays, and that's where my roots are. And so I've never felt that I would be gone forever. I say that 17 years later. Um, but I guess that's just the lack of fear. Maybe it's an adrenaline. It's weird. My wife, on the other hand, had some reservation. She did not know what was going to happen. Uh, Luckily, I was coming to Houston, right? Texas is great because we started with zero contacts, zero family, and just but endless opportunity out here in Texas.
Hmm. I like how you said that. A lot of people see trials as a bad thing, but like you just
Hmm.
said, there's whenever you go to Houston, or whenever you go somewhere new, like your experience, there's endless opportunities. And so
Yeah.
I think I know in my own life that seeing that as an opportunity has really affected me and just gives you in a better frame of mind that I've experienced.
Hmm. Yeah.
So you mentioned too, whenever you got to Houston, you started pretty much door knocking for a job. And so going to Houston, you have a clean slate. I'm assuming you were like a door to door salesman. You were actually looking for a job. Is that kind of what that looked like?
Full disclosure, I did door to door book sales
Yeah.
when I was in college.
Okay.
So I wasn't out of my realm of expertise, but yes, I did that. Looking for a gig, man. And it wasn't hard. The company that I went to, they had just landed a massive, massive account, and essentially they were hiring anybody. And, I'm nothing special. I can tell you that. Uh, so they were just like, you have a pulse. Okay, come on in. You're breathing. You have a pulse. We'll take you. And I made the most of it. Right. I was very grateful. I had a new wife. I had to, I had to make it. Right. I left my hometown, and I was going to prove it that we could do this.
Mm. I think a lot of people don't have that kind of strength, or maybe that courage. They're going through something hard right now where they're in a crappy job and they need to get out, but
Hmm.
there are maybe some obstacles in their way, and it sounds like you really overcame that. What if you can say something to those people? You know, they want to get out of their job, but it might be a little risky, and
Mhm.
they haven't had an opportunity like Katrina hit them, right? So they might need some motivation. What would you say to those people so that they can kind of take that first step?
Yeah, I can appreciate that, right? Especially if you're just in a job, and I got into a job that was really bad in a few years after I left said data entry job. It was painful, and we had a lot of, we had a growing family, and it was painful. It was a recession. I know the deal. I know that pain, and you can, and this is maybe me, but maybe boil it all down to like a financial risk, right? And what is your ideal situation? What does that look like? And maybe this isn't a tomorrow decision or a next month decision, but whatever your 5 year goal is, you can back that out and you can say, these are the steps I need to take every month, and gives you some glimmer of strategy, if not hope, like a strategy to get there. Um, that's kind of how I got to real estate, right? This is not my ideal place, but I know what I want and where I want to be, and these are the steps I need to take to get there.
Mm. So kind of getting a real bird's eye view of where you
Yeah.
want to go and maybe even the why of, you have several kids and married, and so understanding that will help them have the life that they deserve and that you want for them, and so
Hmm.
maybe going that extra step will actually provide that for them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And be okay with taking missteps. You
Hmm.
know, we
Okay.
all make mistakes.
Okay. What was in your early days as a salesman? What were some of the mistakes that you made that you learned from?
Uh, Going for kind of, you and I, you were giving me some direction earlier, but going for quantity and not quality. When you're focusing on the wrong things, this is a short life we have. We need to focus on relationships. And being salespeople, we tend to focus on money, and focus on numbers. And um, really, if you focus on relationships and solving problems for people, you are having a much better quality of life and client.
Mm. Hmm. Was there an instance? Do you have a story of where that kind of really affected you, where you focused on that relationship instead of like the normal salesman, they just see a paycheck? Do you have a story or something like that?
Yeah, most everything over the past 6 or 7 years. Most, you know, um, I can tell you, it usually in the short term can cost money. So we have a customer, and a lot of what I do has to do with air freight and uh, versus trucking or shipping on the boat. Air freight will cost you much more money, which means a higher commission. So if you can, and I actually showed the client, and I said, look, the way that you are making these decisions is costing you much higher premiums on your shipping. But if you make the decisions on in this manner, you will give me less money, meaning your budget will shrink by upwards of 50%. We showed this entire report and estimation across the globe to them. And because I'm looking out for them, that individual, and they can go look very good in front of the CEO and the CFO. Uh, and that's winning an ally, and that's making them look like a rock star.
Hmm. I love that, man. Like, seeing how the client will actually be making money if they go one certain route, that will ultimately, and you're very transparent, say, hey, this is going to make me less money, but it will help you in the long run. And I'm sure that gives that potential client a bit of a safe feeling, right? Because they understand that you look out for them and that they're not just another paycheck.
Yeah. I mean, we all know we're in business. We're not doing this for free, but let's just be transparent here. And I do it with some sort of humor, right? Like, hey, you know, yeah, this is going to make me less money, but I'm trying to look out for you. Because if this is a transactional relationship, then you can go transact with somebody else. Uh, and and that's the truth. But when it comes to trust, then are they going to trust the next guy as much as they trust me?
Mm. And I'm
And I
sure in
hope
that
not.
instance they wouldn't.
Right.
Right, right. So whenever you're on the sales journey, and then when you realize, hey, this just isn't providing what I want, or this maybe isn't the life that I want, and you kind of make that decision to actually pursue real estate, was there a kind of light switch moment that happened for you that kind of made you that kind of pushed you over the edge towards that?
Yeah, well, there are several, right? So sales, like the economy, can have an up and down swing on your income, right? Because of business and because it's people, people come and they go, right? And, you know, this same decision maker will love us and choose us, and then he leaves that organization, and somebody who loves my competitor comes in. So for these business reasons, it's very unpredictable. Um, and so, in order to stabilize an income, I wanted to be in charge of it. And the way that I found that was through rental income. And so, once I finally had some success, I wanted to stabilize it and make my commissions earn commissions.
Mm. Commissions earn commission. Oh, so you were reinvesting your commissions into an asset that was creating you income. Is that
Yeah,
right? Okay,
right.
okay, okay. And where did you first find that rental property? Was it in Houston in your backyard?
Everything that I've done, with the exception of apartments, I've started investing in apartments through in different states, but
Mm-hmm.
in single family, I've done everything in Houston.
Mm. Okay, okay. And you mentioned earlier that you have several kids. And how many kids do you have exactly? Was it three?
I have five.
Five now. Okay, so you added some. Nice. Uh, so five kids, married man, and salesman. It just it seems like to me a lot of the high achievers in life they usually go big, and so if having that many kids, man, and having uh, a demanding career, I'm sure you've learned a lot of things just with time management, so that you're still giving your loved ones, right, the people that you're doing this for, the time and attention that they need to strengthen that relationship. So,
Mhm.
what kind of time management strategies or habits have you developed with such a high demanding career?
Yeah. So the pretty much from 7:30 to 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock, I'm working. There's that is a time block in and of itself, unless unless I'm getting away. My son plays tennis and he gets out, and sometimes he's got tournaments on a Thursday during the afternoon. So if I have availability, I'll go watch that. Um, After that, there's about a 2 to 3 hour period from six to nine, and I do not work, with some exception. For instance, last night I had a call with some of my partners about an apartment complex we're putting an offer on, and we had about an hour and a half. But it is either work or it is family, and we're pretty strict on that. Wednesday nights, Bible study at church. Sundays, almost all day at church. It's very involved. So I try not to mix the two, so that I get a whole lot done at work and I don't get distracted. And then it is all family. It's one or the other.
Mm. Okay. So there's no multitasking, especially when it comes to something as important as that.
Yeah, if you're multitask, I'm not. I can't speak for other people. Um, and I felt really good about. I read a book, I guess last year, called The One Thing. I don't know if you've read it, but he speaks to this. Yeah, he speaks to this. Like, just get the one thing done. And so I said, that's a great idea. Like, I need to just focus on, you know, uh, this thing until it's done, whether it's an email or it is a focus time or this. And I have really employed that to the extreme.
Mm, okay. Okay. And time blocking, you mentioned that, and that is kind of a light bulb moment for me because time blocking has been a huge piece in my life, in my business, my personal life, to really maybe stay sane. Maybe there's a better word there, but where can you kind of explain to our listeners that strategy exactly and kind of how that works for you?
Absolutely. If you've got a calendar that shows you 12 hours in a day, block out some time for a specific task, and nothing else is going to interrupt you. Not a Facebook alert, not emails, unless you're time blocking for emails. I actually have two time blocks in my day just for emails, and nothing else interrupts me. Uh, you can time block for uh, just writing if that is something you need to time block for. But 15 minutes, 30-minute time blocks, it is a specific time allotment to achieve one task whenever you need to in your calendar. And it is a game changer if you haven't done it. As long as you commit to it and do not allow for distractions during that time blocking.
Right. And yeah, I've definitely experienced that myself. And sometimes things do come up. I'm sure having 5 kids, things will come up where you have to make an exception. But the majority of the time, sticking to that commitment, like you said, and if you're going to do something, actually do it. And especially if it's in your calendar, just stick to that. And you'll actually start seeing progress in your business or personal life.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I have a project that I'm getting done, and I have worked backwards from when it should be done to, say to today. And so I allot 15 minutes every single morning, and it'll take 22 days. And, you know, it's amazing when you block out everything else. It's amazing when you start to do that, how many fires come up during your time blocking. But if you just don't allow that to um, distract you, then it can wait 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and Rome, it's not going to get solved in that amount of time. So that's what's the changer, is that you are staying committed to something that you told yourself is a big picture item.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Jeff, I want to ask you before we actually head out here that you mentioned something earlier around 2012 that was a really defining point in your life where, like you said, several salesmen, their mindset is around the check, and
Hmm.
that's fair. That's just where they are in life. And what you said, you had some challenges with when you were having that mindset, but then that kind of changed when you made a different decision. Can you tell our listeners what that was?
Yeah. So, you know, always been focused on the money and right, wrong, or indifferent. I came to Jesus in 2012 or maybe 2013, and I attribute that to the pastor who lived across the street from me, introducing me to the Bible. Um, and I don't believe that I am the most successful salesperson or by any means, but I gave everything to God's will. And once I began accepting that whatever happens is going to be God's will. It's my job to just do everything for His glory. And it really was a mind shift and a mindset shift that um, changed my perspective and just accepting the outcomes as they may be. So I just continued doing my best and actually began doing better for His glory. And um, understanding that every single outcome was a good learning opportunity on either how I could have done something differently or better, no matter what, whether we won business or lost business. And it's still an opportunity to have a good relationship with a client, whether it was awarded to us or not. And it's the same thing in said real estate deals, right? Maybe we get something, maybe we don't. If we are not getting a real estate opportunity, it could be that God's looking out for us and protecting me.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What were some of the challenges that you went through before that decision that, I mean, was it kind of with family? Was it with business? Or were there a couple of instances that kept on creeping up that that kind of got you closer to that decision?
Decision of
Of coming to Jesus and really, I mean, giving control to Him.
So it was that's a very good question. It was kind of unrelated. At that time, I was working for a smaller company, and we were just, we had 3 kids, and it was a very, very trying time financially. I mean, I don't know how we were making it. I'll be honest. I don't know how we bought groceries. Um, and I knew that that company was going to sell. And so, it's 2012, 2011. I knew they were going to sell. They weren't telling us, but I started interviewing. I'd been interviewing for a year trying to find a place to go. And one of my clients said they would interview me, but big company. And big companies have long hiring processes. Uh, so we just didn't know what was going to happen. So it was a long period of unrest. Um, the company that I was working for had cut my salary in half about a year prior. So we're just barely scraping by. And, uh, but again, I just was like, hey, Lord, whatever is going to happen, I'm sure it'll be okay. Maybe my lifelong dreams of being wealthy is just not meant to be. Maybe we can sell this house and go move back into an apartment. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, God. But in the end, I ended up getting this job, and it completely changed the trajectory of my life. And so that was God's will. And I don't take that for granted. It was actually something that I'm supposed to do right by God and with what He gives us, right? It's 5 talents. He did not give me this ability to be commercially minded, to uh, go and be greedy and selfish and buy Lambos. So I'm supposed to hopefully, teach my kids well and others who come from a similar background as me how to view money and manage it wisely.
Mm-hmm. So what that means to me is, and just reiterating what you said was, whenever, I mean, you knew that job, you knew that was a challenging time, and you saw the writing on the wall with that job and kind of going through that process with that other company and really relying on God to kind of guide you. If you have to move an apartment, if you have to, whatever that looks like, if you have to sleep in your car, but kind of relinquishing control to that and that can be hard for a lot of people. And I feel like whenever I relinquish control for me to God, that's just freeing. It feels like a weight's lifted off my shoulders, and that's just for me though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You took me back there, man. I was scared. I remember that feeling talking about it, and it was scary. It was a nerve-wracking time until I said, whatever happens, you know what's going to happen, God. You already know. I'm the one who doesn't know, and that's why I'm so uneasy. So I don't need to be.
Mm-hmm. Matthew 6:25 through 34 talks about not worrying about tomorrow, because tomorrow can worry about itself. And so again, and I think your mindset is amazing, man, where you can see that that's an opportunity, and ultimately God's going to do what He's going to do, and whatever His will be, it's ultimately going to work out for your better. And we just kind of have to trust that, and again, just dedicating ourselves to Christ and saying, Jesus, take the will. So
yeah, worse things have happened to better people.
That's a really good quote, man. I really like that. Wow, worse.
I just came up with that, and I need to coin that.
Yeah, write that down. I might make that the title of today's podcast. So,
yeah, worse things have happened. Yeah, look at Job.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, hey man, we'll wrap up today's show with just 3 questions, and the first being, if you can recommend our book to our listeners, what would that be?
Being on the spiritual topic, we'll go with John MacArthur's Becoming a Leader. That's a spiritual book, and then a good investing book for passive investors, Passive Investing Made Simple. It is a book by Anthony Vicino, who is my mentor. He's recently released it within the past couple months. Again, that is my mentor and coach. So we're in the same community together.
Okay. And if people want to learn more about you, or maybe get in touch with you to ask you some questions about how to invest with you, or just real estate and business in general, where's the best place for them to do that at?
Yeah, reach out to me at multifamilyadvice.com. That's multifamilyadvice.com. I have a free white paper there, 7 reasons we like multifamily. We are bullish on it. I can give you a whole slew of reasons based on my supply chain background, my logistics, how we predicted inflation last year, and how I'm telling you inflation is going to come down next year, and the Fed rate probably by Q3 as a result. So would love to talk to you about it. Would love to.
Yeah, that's actually kind of piqued my interest, and I want to go to your website now. So that was multifamilyadvice.com, right?
Yep.
Okay. And if you can share one last thing with our listeners to kind of sum up today, or if you just want to share one thing with our listeners to take away from today, what would that be?
Man, we're all going to get trials, Speaking about Jesus, nobody was promised an easy life. So it's just a matter of getting through it and being tough, having a tough mindset, and embracing the challenges, and looking good on the other side of it, and enjoying the journey. Right. Some of the toughest times have been my best stories.
I like that. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate your time today and just sharing your story with our listeners. So thanks for being here, man. It was great.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.
It's time to grab your victory. Find us on the web at redseacapitalgroup.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Red Sea Capital Group.